Hi there, John here at Microaces. Welcome to Microaces Workshop and the video assembly guide for the Bristol F.2b brushless upgrade. This is actually a power upgrade for the Microaces Aero kit, the Bristol F.2b, which there are several of different liveries. But this actually installs a brushless motor and brushless receiver into the existing airframe, and there are a few changes to the airframe that are required to actually bring about that in an elegant fashion. The extra power that the brushless system gives the aircraft means that the acrobatics are a lot smoother and more elegant, I would say. So things like loops and stall turns can be achieved and look a little more scale than they did under the brushed power system. So it's well worth considering if you've got a Bristol, but if you haven't purchased a Bristol yet, then you can actually get it with the brushless upgrade kit, and obviously don't have to go to the expense of also purchasing the brushed system as well. So anyway, let's get down onto the build board, and this is the post-war livery, C801. And we're going to look straight under the hood here. Let's just pop that off. And as you can see, we have a brushless motor up front here on direct drive, no gearing system at all. Linked to the standard recommended prop, which is a GWS 5030. And then we have some plywood here. This is the actual mount itself. I've already disconnected the motor from the receiver, so I can just pull this straight out. This is the mount itself. It's a simple plywood system that allows the motor to be mounted at the front with an amount of side thrust and down thrust that's recommended. We've also got a little Velcro strap here supplied that'll allow you to hold the battery in place. And in fact, now apart from the the standard batteries that we recommend, you can actually fit a much larger battery in. So this is a 300 milliamp hour battery that sits really nicely in that form. So and there we go. Let's just pop that to one side. And then you can see the business end, which is the brand new brushless all-in-one receiver that's got the 2 onboard servos that take care of the control of the tail feather. And obviously you've got your 3 port connector for the brushless motor. The other upgrade areas that you need to do are on the nose, this chin piece itself. We'll be replacing this, but we'll also be recycling some of the parts that are within there, and also on the hatch itself, this nose piece once again we'll be replacing, because we need to create extra room for the motor. But as I said again, we'll be replacing some of these parts as well. So within the video, I will show you what those are. Okay, so let's just put this all back together. And we'll have a look at what actually comes in the upgrade kit. In here we have our plywood parts that are necessary for mounting the brushless motor. We've got some 2mm parts to refresh the the nose. We've got the stickers that cover the outside. Now, what we've done is in the pack, we've actually put all of the ones that are appropriate for all the different liveries that are out there. There are 4 liveries, but we've done 3 stickers because this particular set of stickers can be shared between two of the aircraft. We've got the receiver, brushless receiver with the onboard servos. It comes with. We have the brushless motor. We have the battery strap, the motor mounting screws, the receiver mounting tape, a new GWS 5030 prop, which is a perfect match for this motor. We have stickers to redecorate the prop itself so it looks a little more realistic, and also we have some new control wires so that you can replace the existing ones if you mount the receiver in a different location than the receiver that you will be removing, the brushed receiver that you'll be removing from the aircraft during the upgrade. Right, let's put this all to one side and we'll have a look at the tools that we require to do the job. There's some here you can see. Obviously we need some glue, we need a knife. Tweezers are always handy. Sanding stick, always essential. The other thing that we will need, because we are taking stuff apart from an existing kit, we will need some lighter fluid and a little paintbrush. Now the reason that we use lighter fluid, and I'm sure a number of you will be well aware of this, is that it will melt away the Yoo-hoo pour glue or the foam to foam glue and not melt any foam or remove any of the print work. So that's the range of tools that we need. Let's get the kit that we're going to convert. Here is our Bristol that is at the moment sporting some rather nice ordnance underneath, but also has a brushed motor, gearbox, and just pop that out, a brushed all-in-one receiver. So what we need to do first, obviously, is just remove the motor. So to do that, we're going to unplug it from the board, like so. And then we can put that whole unit to one side. We could reuse the prop on that, but I will show you how to refurnish or furnish a new prop with sticker, etc. Now we need to detach our control wires using tweezers. I'm actually going to use some pliers on this, I think. Yeah, the plastic tweezers don't seem to have enough solidity to force the wires out. So let's just use my little tiny pliers. There we go. I've already detached them at the other end, so we'll just get rid of those for now. We may be able to reuse these, so I will keep them to one side. But even if we don't, we can use them as the pattern to bend our new wires to shape. There we go. And the last job is to get the receiver out of the deck. So this has been put on to a servo tape pad. So that's all come out nicely. I can obviously reuse that in other models from the Microaces range. And I've got my sticky pad in here, and it seems to still have some stick, but if I wanted to, I could probably remove it by just gently prising it off. So we could basically start with a fresh pad, I think. But we've now got a nice area to pop our receiver in. So I'm just going to offer up the receiver for a bit of a dry fit, just to make sure we've got enough room for it, and we don't need to make any adjustments, or maybe we'll need to make some adjustments to accommodate it. So just going to pop that into place. It's going to slide back to the back of the space available, and we seem to have plenty of room there, plenty of room for the connector for the motor as well. So that's fine. I can put that to one side. Don't lose it. There's the little baggie it came in. It's still in the box. Still in the box. There we go. So what I want to do now is turn my attention to the top hatch. So we'll just put the aircraft to one side, and that'll give the opportunity for that base plate to actually set with the new glue. And what I want to do is remove this portion of the nose from the hatch. So to do that, I'm going to use my lighter fluid and a little paintbrush. And what I'm going to do, if I just open up the lighter fluid, I'm going to pour a little bit into the top of a paint pot, or any sort of container will do. And then I'm just going to use my brush to apply on the inside to the join that I want to separate. It's this full part here that we need to remove. The rest of the hatch can stay intact. So I don't want to get any of the fluid down into the hatch area there, because that I want staying in place. If it gets removed or it does come adrift, we can always glue it back later, but if we can avoid that in the first place, that would be preferable. So how's that doing? We're starting to get it to move. We can actually come across the top as well here. And we're just, obviously the lighter fluid is very, very thin, wicks into any join that you put it onto. So there we go. Well, it looks like best laid plans. And the part that I didn't want to come adrift has come adrift. But we'll carefully remove it. There we go. I don't want to damage it. Okay, it's taken a little bit of the nose with it, so I'll just get my knife and remove that as well. Alternatively, I could just sand it down, but the lighter fluid should allow me to do it without having to be that harsh. There we go. That's pretty much all of it, I think. Just a little bit there. There we go. So we'll reattach that to the top hatch as soon as the lighter fluid has flashed off. But we'll turn our attention now. Rid of the swarf. Turn our attention now to this nose piece. Now we need to, from here, rescue the magnets that are inside there. So that should just be a matter of peeling back the sticker, and then we can dig them out. Sometimes fingernails work as well as tweezers. Okay, there seems to be quite a bit of glue in there, which is how I tend to embed the magnets. So, and don't worry about saving the sticker. Obviously we've got more, so you can be quite brittle. And then we'll see if we can remove these magnets. Right, I'm going to get a little more lighter fluid in there just to soften up the glue. Now, whilst that is softening up, the other part that we need to rescue from here is the plastic louvers at the front, or it's just an image at the front, so that needs to come off as well. So, let's see where we are. They are moving. I think we have one. And we have two. This one might need a little bit of a clean up. There we go. So pop them over there. So I'm going to attach them to the push rods. So, as I said, the other thing we need to get off is the plastic now. You can try and peeled it straight off, but once again it needs a bit of a clean up. So I'm just going to let some lighter fluid absorb into the stuff that's on the back of it. Okay. Pour myself a little more. Obviously don't pour out too much at once because it does tend to evaporate. So I don't want to waste it all. So just so there's enough on there, and we should be able to just actually go. Just using the back of the knife to scrape the material away. What I don't want to do is obviously damage the plastic part because we don't have a replacement for that. So just scraping away all the glue. More lighter fluid. A little more scraping. Okay. Pick it up. If that helps. There we go. Oh yes, it's all coming off now. And I just dropped it on the floor. Right, pick that up. Okay, we'll call that done. It's not perfect, but it's just going to be reapplied, so the front's fine. And the rest of this, we can bin it or pop it somewhere for no other reason than it used to be on one of our aircraft. So anyway, let's re-glue this. Now, you may not have to do this because you may have luckily got yours off without this particular part coming out. So there's a bit of stick about it at the moment anyway, but I'm going to reapply some of the glue just to give it extra stick. And I've been quite generous there. What I'm going to do is use the contact adhesive properties of this glue. So I'm just getting some glue onto the other adhesive surface, and I'm just going to pop that to one side with that, and we'll stick that later. Okay, so what we need to do now, let's bring back the complete aircraft. We need to get rid of the chin. So what we're going to do here, we're going to remove it in two parts. So the chin itself will come off, and then we do need to remove this front bulkhead as well. So we will be using plenty of lighter fluid. Just pop this off. Let's flip it over, get it into the joint. Okay, let's give it a try. Okay, seems to have softened up nicely. A bit more on this side. Let's go in from the top as well. Okay, we seem to be removing the plastic part as well. That's fine. It's very welcome to come adrift. There we go. Now from this particular part as well, we need to rescue the magnets, and we need to rescue that front face too. But rather than you watching me do all of that again, I'll get it done and come back in a second. So magnets removed, and a little part from the plastic part from the front also removed. So once again, that can go where everything else goes. So now we've got all of those together, we can start taking this front bulkhead off the front of the aircraft. So once again, use a little bit of the old lighter fluid around the seams. There's also a little structure there at the front, a little slot that will need decoupling. And also let's tackle it from the inside too. Now, some of this lighter fluid wicks and loosens up other areas of the aircraft. Just leave them in situ and the glue will actually likely reform. If you find that it does cause a bit of an issue, then you can always re-glue. So go now, let's see. Seems to be peeling away nicely. There we go. It's come away pretty cleanly. So we now have at the front of the aircraft, you can see free space. We'll get rid of that part too. That's not needed. And we can also use the lighter fluid just to clean up the edges, melt that glue if you've got clumps of it. You don't actually have to remove the glue itself. It actually will almost refresh it, really. But, there we go. So let's pop that aside to dry. And then whilst that is drying, we can start on the assembly of the new nose. So our first priority is to put the front bulkhead back onto the aircraft. And that actually is our little part D2 on the 2mm sheet. Now that's actually this part here, and it has a couple of these sort of vestigial bits on it, and these are actually scored on almost like a hinge line. So I'm just going to go through them, not all the way through, but if you do, it doesn't matter. The idea is that they fold around on themselves and then form a structure at the back of this particular part. So all we have to do is add some glue on the back of each of those folding parts. Oh, that's come out quite quick. There we go. And then once again, using the contact adhesive properties of the glue, just fold them over, get some glue on the other side and let that fall out. And once the glue has dried, we can fold them over and hopefully they will stick. Whilst that's happening, let's just reattach our part to the top hatch that came adrift. So I seem to remember the plastic part of this piece was on the inside, and obviously we want to get this as even as possible, or centered as possible I should say, and flush with the front edge of the skin. So that seems to have done it, and the contact adhesive has worked perfectly for the job. So there we go. Okay, so we'll pop that to one side now and come back to that later. Then we'll start making the chin. So we'll just extract the parts D13, 14 and 15. And we've also got a couple of parts called Z22. Now in the original kit, Z22 is a different type of material, but we've kept it as 2mm in this particular upgrade. But if you are following the old instructions, not the existing instructions for the Bristol, then the parts should be familiar. So we have our D13, D14, D15, and the Z22s sit either end like so, I believe. So we'll glue them together in this order. And because they're pretty much all the same shape, it should be a fairly straightforward job. There are only two parts that are slightly different with these little cutouts in that accommodate the magnets to bring the hatch to, or hold the hatch in place. So we have a Z22, and then we start with our D13, like so, D14, on it goes. D15. And then another Z22. And then I'm just going to pop that down on the bench, make sure everything lines up, everything's sitting flat and upright, and then we can pop that aside and let that dry off. There we go. And then in the meantime we can do our upper hatch, which consists of, D24, Z24 I should say, D27, D26, D25, and Z23. There we go, that's our 2mm done. So the order that these need to be put together in are the order that these need to the order that these parts need to be put together in are Z23, D25, D26, D27, and then right at the end Z24. So let's crack on and do that. You can be fairly generous with the glue. Obviously the nose area is an area of the aircraft that needs to be strong, and also a little bit of nose weight in this model is not a bad thing. The actual brushless motor itself doesn't really weigh that much more. In fact, it may weigh slightly less than its brushed motor gearbox equivalent. So we shall see. So there we go. So we can pop that to one side and let that dry off. You said not lining it up properly. Let's just make sure. Looks better. Okay, so our little front bulkhead now, we should be able to fold these over and make them stick. And the idea is that they create this little step at the back, and that's a step that the ply motor mount will be sitting on. So let's get our aircraft back, and we should be able to stick this into place where the previous one was removed. So just there, like so. Obviously I haven't applied any glue yet, but I'm just dry fitting to make sure we've got a decent fit. So might still be a bit tacky from the lighter fluid dissolved glue. So let's just apply some glue to the edge here. Into that little slot too, certainly at the back. And then let's just pop that into place. Make sure I haven't got any glue on my fingers when I go to touch the aeroplane. And let's just mount that in position. There we go. Right, I'll let the... It's not a perfect fit at the moment, but I'll let the glue dry, and then I should be able to push it all together, and it'll come good. So let's just pop that over there for now. Once that dries, and we can get on to creating the plywood mount. Our plywood, and we'll start removing the parts. W1 first. Go. And then the two little mounting blocks. W2 and 3. There we go. And W4 too. So going across the grain with this. There we go. Right. So we've got all our parts. We can now assemble. Right, the first parts to put together, W3 and W2. Let's just make sure all of these cutouts are actually free from debris. Also go the screw holes as well. So W2 mounts in front of W3. W2 has the sort of the carve out of where the motor is going to sit. I just noticed there's still a little bit of debris in that screw hole. There we go. Now you can use wood glue to bring these together. Obviously it's wood, so wood glue would be the optimum. But the foam to foam seems to do as good a job. Certainly in this size of kit, it has a lot of sticking power, so we'll stick with it, as it were. Oh, that's terrible, isn't it? We'll stick with it. Do apologise. So I'll let those sit together, like so. And what I'm going to do, just to ease the fit, these little tabs on W4, I'm just going to sand lightly so that it's easier for them to insert into the slots that have been cut for them in the various parts that they're going to come into contact with. Where's the other one? There she is. Okay, so what we're going to do, it doesn't matter which W4 you use, but they are mounted on the underside of the main panel. You want them sitting nicely in the slots provided. Just going to sand that down a little bit more. Perfect. There we go. So let's just add a little glue. So as you can see, the motor is sort of underslung on the motor mount due to its or the props position on the fuselage. The thrust line being quite low on the Bristol. You have to get the motor being direct drive down as low as possible too. Once again, you could very easily use wood glue to to do this job as well. So the arrangement up front, two bulkheads that have come together, they should now slot directly onto this structure we've created. But what I'm going to do is just allow the W4 parts to adhere to W1. before we progress. Whilst we are waiting for that, we can just finish off. That's all the other little jobs that we've got. That top hatch is fine. Let's just do the chin bulkhead piece. That should now have enough tack to form and hold. Good. And the other job that we can do is using a small screwdriver and little screws, is just pre-tap. We can do that with one screw. Pre-tap these screw holes provided, just so it makes attaching the motor a lot easier. So always makes a very squeaky sound. let's place that downwards so I can apply a little more pressure. Go, that's one done. Always makes it a lot easier to mount the motor if the screws are easy to put in. It seems to be tapping there. There we go. One more in the corner. Okay, face down again. Fantastic. So let's pop that screw back into the little baggie so we don't lose it. And now let's apply our motor mount plate to the rest of the structure. Just do a quick dry fit test. Okay, that all seems to be good. So let's just add a little glue, keep it in place. So that's the way up it goes. But it's hard not to because you've got the slot there. But, go. I'm actually going to give that a little nice tight fit. Fabulous. So this is actually shaped so that you should now get some down thrust. Obviously this sits at an angle within the fuselage anyway to provide that. So you've got a right angle there between the two parts. But if you look from the top, you'll see that it's offset, giving you some side thrust to the right hand side. Excellent. So whilst we're here, we can actually mount the motor to this structure. Let's get our motor out. There we go. And obviously we've got a little cutout here at the side that allows for the motor's wires to pass through. And so the best way to mount the motor itself is with the wires pretty close to that cutout, so they can bend round and basically sit in that cutout, making it a lot easier to manage the cables themselves. So all we've got to do here is get our little screws out and pop the motor on. What I tend to do with this is I won't tighten up the screws as they go in. They'll go in, and I'll leave them loose and then just gradually tighten them up so that we get good alignment. I always find this a little bit fiddly because obviously the magnets in the motor tend to attract these little screws. So that's why having the holes pre-tapped is a bit of a godsend, really. As the screws going a lot easier. So I put about 3 or 4 turns on that one. Add a little bit more, and the final hole is aligned, so that's all good. So let's just tighten everything up now. Go. So our motor is now on its mount, and that's ready to install into the fuselage. We can put that to one side and come back to that later. Let's do the chin first, because that's the one we set aside first. Now, looking at the top of the chin, you've got offset to one side the cavities for the magnets, and basically they sit. If you imagine the fuselage is here, then you've got one 2mm part, and then you have the holes for the magnets, and then you have two 2mm parts forward of that. So what we need to do is our little plastic part, our plastic front, we need to adhere to the front of the chin, and you'll notice that it's smaller than the surrounding foam, so what you need to do is align it in the center of that part. So let's just, with the knowledge that it's doesn't go right to the edge, we will pop our glue in that space so you don't overrun. So there we go. Put that in place, and of course, because the glue's still wet, we've got plenty of time to slip slide it around, make sure that it is placed correctly, symmetrically, like so. Okay, set that aside, let that set. And the same applies to the upper half of the nose. So let's just, and you'll notice that we have a cutout here now, which allows a little more air into the front of the aircraft. The brushless systems run a little hotter than the brushed, so that extra cooling is certainly going to help. There we go. So whilst these are drying, the other thing you can do is just grab the two of them, bring them together, and just make sure that they line up when they come together on the actual aircraft itself. So there we go. So let's just, whilst we're here, pop a little bit of glue into the cavities for the magnets. We'll do this on both. We'll just let the glue set before putting the magnets in place. So whilst we're waiting for all the glue on our various parts to dry off, let's think about installing the receiver into our aircraft. So let's grab that receiver. And what I do prior to this, my suggestion to you is just before we install it, just make sure that it's functional and works. So if there is an issue with it, rather than having to pull it out of the aircraft, we've got it available there for our attention, should it be required. So let me go and get my radio and a battery, and we'll get it bound and tested. Have my transmitter here, and let's just switch it on. Right, now let's get this in bind mode. So all you need to do is plug in the battery. We've got lights, so that's good. It's flashing away. So what we've got to do is wait until that flashes fast. There we go, and we can go to system setup and end. Right, I'm going to put some distance between me and the receiver, just because that's how I've always done it. Bind complete. So we have functioning servos, and I could always pop the motor on, couldn't I? So I'm going to depower it before I put the motor on. I can check which way the motor's spinning. Of course, I want it to go anti-clockwise as I look at it. So we should get a bit of a tune out of it as well, now that we've got a motor attached. Right, we have a working motor. So I can disconnect everything and we can start thinking about putting it into the aircraft. Okay, let's get our pads. We only need one of these really. Now when you turn the receiver over, you will notice that there are actually cutouts in the PCB where the gears for the servos actually push through. Now what we don't want to do is disturb those gears by putting adhesive or adhesive material over those holes. So we need to keep clear of those as much as possible. So what I'm actually going to do is apply the pad in two parts. Firstly, I'm going to cut it so that I fill up this area here, and then I'm going to put a smaller pad here. I'm going to steer clear of putting it over the electronic speed controller because I don't want that to basically be insulated, because it's going to get quite hot when in operation. The motor can draw up to 5 amps. Obviously the ESC can deliver that 5 amps, but it does actually get quite warm in the process. So let's pop that one on first. I'll need to go and get a pair of scissors, which I don't have here, so bear with me. Well, a little bit of overkill. They're quite big, these scissors, but they'll do the job. So there we go. Okay, making sure I don't put the sticky stuff over those cogs. Okay, and then press that down firmly, and then we're going to cut out a little piece to go that one side, leaving the electronic speed controller to vent. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to position this in the aircraft so that this back edge here sits against that bulkhead within the fuselage, and we might as well get that done now. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend the motor connector up slightly so I've got easier access to it once it's in there. So okay, let's remove the sticky tape to expose the adhesive sides, and then we can drop this in. Now you can actually do this with tweezers as well, but I like to get my hands in. There we go, keeping it as central as possible. Okay, that's nicely in place, and then using plastic tweezers, I'm just going to gently push the board down to secure it in place. You can see it takes up quite a good portion of the available space in there. So that's the receiver in. Now what I'm going to do is create some new rods from the supplied rods that come with the upgrade pack. I don't think I need to show you this because it's something that you've already done. So I'll come back when fitting them and show you that. Let's carry on. So I've got a new rod in here which I have bent to the required angles so that it threads through. And what I'm going to do now is, it hasn't been cut at the end so far, you can see it protruding here. What I am going to do is mark it where it needs to be bent to go into the servo arm. So firstly I'll need a marker pen, which funnily enough I don't have here, so bear with me a second. The good old trusty Sharpie. So what I'm looking for is my elevator to be level and the wire to be running past the servo arm. So I know my servo arm, I'm going to go into the hole that's furthest back on the servo arm. There are 3. And I'm going to mark the position with the black Sharpie. So there we go, I've got it. So the Sharpie is not particularly precise, so the black mark is more of a splodge, but what I'm going to do now is just decouple the rod, take it out from the fuselage, and then with it oriented as it would be in the fuselage, I go to the black mark that you can see there, pop my pliers, find around about the center of it, and then pop in that bend. So what I'm looking for is a return on the bend itself, so it forms a hook that will stay in the servo. So around about at there, I suppose that's a good sort of, what's that, about 60 degrees, around about that. And then I just need to snip off to leave around about 4 or 5 mil protruding. So let's do that. There we go. And then pop it back in and see if I've got it right. So I've popped the rod in, attached it to the servo, this end for the elevator, and the elevator itself has a little bit of an upward deflection, something that I can possibly trim out, or because of the loop in the rod itself, I can push that together slightly to bring it down, so I can physically trim it as well. So I'm going to stick with that for now, and I'm going to go on to do the rudder control rod. One tip, if you've received or you are using your new control rods, is that they may well have a little curve to them because of the way that they've been packaged. So if you just run your fingers along it, bending it in the opposite direction, you should be able to straighten it out somewhat, like so. So I've now got both of the rods hooked up and attached to the relevant control surfaces. So that part of the installation is done. The receiver is in and the motor, etc., just needs to be plugged in, and we're ready to go. Okay, let's put this to one side for now. And we can start looking at the finishing off of the chin and the hatch. So we've got these little overlaps around the edge there, and what we need to do is carve away the material, the foam, at around a 45-degree angle. Just this first section of foam. We don't need to go any deeper, just that 1-2 mil lip there, and just form a flush angle all the way around the perimeter there. So let's just see if my knife's biting, so that's good. So I just very carefully create that angle all the way around. Like so. Let's go the other way. Now this is a used blade. I have used it prior to this, and it's always good to use a fresh blade on these cuts. But of course, the blade that's used, part of the blade that's used the least, is the back edge. So, and I can utilize that in this situation. So once I've done that, I can actually neaten that up a little with a file, should I wish, to get it a little smoother. Like so. And then I'll continue to do the edge in exactly the same fashion around the nose, the hatch part of the nose. So I'll crack on with that and come back to you once it's done. Well, I actually managed to get that off in 2 cuts, which I'm most pleased about. So the edge is all done there. I can just check once again that they marry up well. Yeah, actually I might just trim a little bit extra off here. Just so it matches up really well. We get a bit of a sounding stick on there as well. Okay. Now the other thing we need to do obviously is add those magnets back to these 2 parts so that they come together. So if you remember, we've already put some glue on there. I would imagine it's pretty sticky now, so pretty dry now I should say, so it should make a good contact adhesive. These little magnets also have a little bit of glue still on them from when they were previously mounted, so just pop them in there for now. And of course what we need to do is make sure that the other 2 magnets match up. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pop one of the magnets onto one of the magnets on the hatch front that I've just added the magnets to, and then slide my knife between them so that this magnet should now sit that way up in the area there, the little divot made for it. Just want to check. Yeah, it's sitting centrally in the other, so make sure that sits centrally there. So we'll do exactly the same on the other side. This has got a little bit more glue on this magnet, so I'm just going to scrape a little bit off with the fingernails. And then pop that on, slide the knife through, pick it off, then pop it in place. There we go. Excellent. So I'll avoid bringing those together at the moment because the magnets are exposed. It's likely that they'll pull one another out of these parts, but we'll leave them as far apart as possible. Now, within the main manual, when we apply the stickers to the outside of here, to make sure that we get a nice even surface, we're actually going to stick a strip of paper all the way around there. Just stick it on, and that actually evens out the surface. As you can feel, as it's slightly rough with the ridges from the laser cut parts. So I'm going to cut a long strip of paper and get that applied to the edges, both this part and the chin as well. So I've got a bit of A4 knocking around. Let's just measure how much I need. So I reckon we could do with 7 millimeters. Let's just check at the top there. Yep, 7 should do us. So if I just mark out 5, 6, 7. Sorry, top of my head. Just cut that strip and that should be good for both parts. Okay. That to one side. So I'm just going to add some glue around the edge here. A full smear of it, but very thin. And then take our piece of paper, start at one end, make sure it's flush with the back, take it all the way around. Then lop it off. Just there. So got a little bit of time for positioning. There we go, nice flat surface, so we'll let that dry off, and then we will just do exactly the same with the chin. a light smear everywhere where the paper is going to make contact. I realise this is foam to foam glue, not paper to foam, but it seems to do the trick. And of course we're going to be covering this with a sticker anyway. Start at one end. All the way around. It's coming adrift slightly, but get it removed. Protruding slightly this edge, so I'll just use the knife to even it up. Good, so there we go. So what's left there is to get the stickers on. So we'll just let the glue dry for a few minutes before doing that. And I'll come back to you when that has happened. So, onto the stickers. Now this aircraft is the D8084, so I'll be using these stickers here. Let's do the smaller one first. These stickers, if you have a look at them, they've got some cut-ins where the sticker folds over the front of the structure, and there's always a potential to rip. So when peeling off, it's just worth being very, very careful. One can always use a pair of tweezers to help control the peel. So very carefully remove the sticker from the backing. A bit of help there. And then we'll do is we pop the parts down, and we're going to try and hit it fairly dead center, like so. And then let's try that again. And the idea is that these wrap around and then come to bear on the magnets and covering them up. And what I'm going to do, just to help the process, is add a smear of glue where the sticker is going to come down, and this will provide further security for the magnets themselves. There we go. So we'll just leave that open for now and leave the front unfolded. Just let that glue dry, and we'll repeat the process on sometimes you need to get a knife under the edge. I tend to use the knife facing backwards so that I decrease the risk of cutting the sticker with the knife. So let's repeat the process with the. I'm giving it a bit of a wiggle. Got the radiator cap to give us an indication of the centre of the sticker here. Let's see. Done. Looks good. Yep. So once again, we'll add a little bit of glue to the surface that the sticker is going to adhere to, just to give it that extra security. Okay, let that dry off too. And what we're going to do here is just fold these stickers down like so. I'm actually going to use the back of my knife just to provide that extra smoothing ability, like so. Go. And where this folds over, I'm actually going to put a little cut in there to help it do so. And on the other side too, probably easier if I pop it against the cutting board. There we go. And then fold, and I'm actually going to nip off the excess. But before I do that, let's fold this one down too, and just nip off the excess sticker material. So if there's any excess, that can be pushed down into the bowl of the chin area. Go. So that's that part done. We can move on. Actually, I'm going to fold these first, just to make it a little easier on myself. So, and then add a little cut. And there, just to take off those angled parts. and nip off the front. Get all the sticker material off the knife. Otherwise that impacts the effectiveness. And then just do the folding trick again. Go. Little smooth down. There we go, that's all good. And hopefully we've got our magnets right, and hey, we have a great marry up of the two nose parts. So now we need to connect these to the aircraft itself. So we'll start with the chin. And we'll get the hatch underway as well. So this needs to sit in place like so on the aircraft. Let's put a little bit of glue on there. And we're going to use this as contact adhesive. So we're going to transfer some of that glue onto the front of the fuselage. Pop it on there like that. Then just get some glue off my hands. Remove, put to one side, and we can let that dry off. And then we're going to attach our hatch. Go. And then once again we'll bring that to bear. So make sure plenty of glue has transferred, and then we'll let that dry off and complete the task once it has. Whilst that's drying off, we can do a few more little tasks. Firstly, let's bring back the motor and mount. We can pop our little battery tie into the slots provided from the underside. That leaves our tails stretching out like so. You can trim this sometimes. You know, this is it's about 80 mil of material. Not all required if you don't need it. But there we go. That's in place there. And the other thing we can do is, of course, decorate the prop itself. So we've got the stickers for the prop in the box. There we go. And what you can do, you've got these numbers on the stickers on my fingers. You've got these numbers on the blades here. Now, if you want to make it super efficient, you can actually remove those. You can either do it by just skimming it with a knife, or of course you could use a bit of a sanding stick, which works quite well. You're less likely to gouge. So let's just, and obviously this will allow the sticker to sit more perfectly on the blade itself, because obviously with the raised letters underneath and numbers, it's going to cause the sticker to bubble up a bit. And the other thing we need to do is they on the prop adapter, the little rubber bit that goes into the boss there, we need to just take off the nipple on top. We need to make it as flush as possible. So what we need to do on the previous prop is just take off that graphic. Ooh, nearly stabbed myself. I'm just going to rough the rubber up a bit as well. With the sanding stick, just to help the glue. There we go. Got, black sandings all over the all over the sticker. Right, so I've got my prop back here. I'm just going to peel off the little plastic piece on the front, and then I'm going to reapply it to there. So let's do that. A little smear of glue. And let's pop that on. There we go. Center it. And we'll leave that to dry. And we can start applying the stickers for the new prop. So once again, because of the shape of the prop stickers, and there's a deep V between them, that's always a source for possible tearing. So let's just very carefully peel the sticker off and try not to tear it in the process. So what I'm going to do before I apply this to the prop is I'm going to wet the back of it, and I'm actually going to use tongue water, as it's politely known. I'm going to do the same with the prop blade itself. And then what we can do is float the sticker on, like so. Over she goes. And then we can let that dry off in situ. Let's do it for the other side. Another careful removal of sticker from backing. Trying not to get any tears in it. This is actually where having sweaty hands would be quite advantageous, but I don't. Right. Application of tongue water. Just put a little something, probably a bit of sticker from previously on there. On the side. Let's just get that off. Here it comes. So, as I said, application of tongue water. And there we go. Now that can take some time to dry, so we'll pop that out of the way for now. Come back to it in an hour or so, maybe even longer. So anyway, let us continue with the build and pop our chin on. Now it's important we get this right. We get it parallel and lined up. There we go. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is actually pop the hatch on over here without the front nose part on. Just get it sitting correctly, like so. And then pop the nose piece on. And if I press it back, it should sit on the hatch in exactly the right place so that everything lines up beautifully. There we go. Now let's just whip that off for now, so we have other things to do underneath. And just make sure that's pressed home perfectly. Excellent. Good. So our hatch is done. So all we need to do now is fit the motor into the front of the aircraft. Now we've got a little hole here that has been designed for the battery cable to go up. Or the other thing you can do, rather than going through there, which I quite like doing, is actually feeding it down behind this bulkhead and bringing it up through the top cavity there. But for now, we'll try the hole. We get more cable up that way, that's for sure. And then the rear part of the mount should sit back into the little shelf there, and then the front part, let's just get the, before we do that, let's get the motor. We won't connect the motor up at the moment, but we'll just get the cable out of the way. And then in she goes. Pop it back, and then the whole mount itself sit neatly into the cavity, with the motor having freedom of movement. There we go. So we're actually going to, we will be gluing this in place. Make sure the motor is, or the whole assembly is sitting far enough back that the motor clears the plastics, etc. So let's just get everything out of the way so we can get that hatch on. So this is really a sort of a dry run fit that we're doing at the moment. That looks like everything is in place and as it should be. The motor has free movement. So, what's really left to do, I'm going to trim down the battery strap. It's a little bit too much for my liking. I'll take. There we go. That's still enough for wrapping around one of the bigger batteries. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's absolutely fine. That's all we need. And let's get the motor plugged in. And we've got to make sure it turns the right way. So what we're going to do is plug it in before we mount it. We are going to get our transmitter and a battery, plug everything in. And then check which way that's definitely going the wrong way. So let's unplug. And we're going to have to put a little bit of a bend in the cable as well, just to make sure that the mount can sit properly. And then let's plug her in, like so. Just check we've got the correct rotation. There we go. Fantastic. Good. So, remove, switch off, and we can then properly mount our motor and ply combo. So, what we're actually going to do is just tack it in place. Just need to clear that motor a little bit more, the mount. Make sure the connector and the wires are free. Okay, so something preventing it from sitting down properly in place. So I'm just going to have a look. I think I know what it is. So there's a little bit of foam protruding. I'm going to disconnect the motor. So there's a little bit of foam protruding here at the front on the original airframe. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut away some of that so it's flush with the floor. Right, I think my blade has had it, so I'm going to go and change the blade, and we'll resume that process. So, new blade acquired. On. Let's just remove that little section down there. That's much better. Go. Just going to bend these pins a little on the motor as well, so I don't want impact on that either. So let's reconnect. Get the battery wire through the hole. 3-pin connector in. And hopefully we should have no more issues. That's perfect. Fantastic. Excellent. So, the last part of the puzzle, and I'm going to use the old prop for this, because actually the old prop's not in such bad condition. Just take that off. Is to pop the prop on. Now it really should be a push fit. He said. Let's try this with the mount out. There we go, that's more like it. So, push fit that on. So we'll tack the motor mount. So I'm going to put a drop on the cross member at the bulkhead, rear bulkhead, and then a drop on the little shelves at the back of the front bulkhead. Then I'm going to pop the mount into position, make sure that the glue is transferred onto the plywood. Get everything sitting correctly. Looks good. And then just grab the battery cable, put the battery strap together, and we should be able to pop top hatch on. And there we have our upgrade to a brushless system completed on our Bristol. Excellent. Well, I hope that was extremely informative for you and will enable you to get your Bristol upgraded to this new brushless, more powerful system. Many thanks for watching, and happy flying.